I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. Yeah. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man. I banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram his shit up, ram it up his ass. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Max B and Jim Jones used to be like brothers, moving together, grinding together, and running Harlem side by side. But the second Jim threw that bond away, everything flipped. That's when Max stopped being his secret weapon and turned into the nightmare Jim never saw coming. From allegedly taking his girl to wrecking his ride and turning Harlem into straight chaos just to make a point, Max wasn't backing down. He was loud, bold, and ready to remind everyone who really held the wave. Charlie Wingate, that's Max B before the fame, came straight out of Harlem, New York.
So Jim Jones, compare the names. Look, Max Bigavel, Jim Jones. That don't even add up. That's not on my level, man.
Born into the raw, legendary uptown life, where every day was a fight to stay standing. His story began in the Abraham Lincoln housing projects, a place where survival came before dreams. Max's world was never easy. His mom battled addiction and kept finding herself behind bars, leaving his grandmother to raise him. She became his foundation, the one who tried to keep him grounded. But even with her love, the streets were always calling, whispering promises of fast money and danger just around the corner. Before the fame, before the chaos, young Charlie was actually singing in the Boys Choir of Harlem. That's where that smooth, melodic, wavy sound started to form. The lazy tone, the hypnotic rhythm, the effortless flow. But no matter how sweet the music got, it couldn't drown out the pain around him. By 18, Max had already taken a turn that would change everything.
Your name is Max B, aka Max Bigavel. We know Bigavel stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the
Big
name...
Jig and Machiavelli, baby.
Yeah.
Big Jig and Machiavelli.
Back in 1997, Max got caught up on a robbery charge and ended up sitting down for about 8 long years. But that time inside didn't crush him, it built him. When he came home in 2005, he wasn't the same man who went in. He walked out with sharper vision, tougher skin, and a confidence that couldn't be faked. That's when the world met Max Bigavelli, a name born from legends themselves, Biggie Smalls, Machiavelli, Tupac, and Jigga. Max saw himself as that rare mix, the smooth, hypnotic flow of Biggie, the deep pain of Pac, and the hustler swagger of Jay-Z. When Max touched the streets again, Harlem was electric. The diplomats were ruling the city. Cameron and Jim Jones had every corner on lock. Their movement was untouchable. Through Cam,
boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max B, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out to this man, Calvin Leardom.
Max reconnected with the Harlem Circle and got introduced to Jim Jones. That meeting changed everything. Jim brought him into the Bird Gang label, and not long after, Max started cooking with the legendary Harlem producer, Dame Grease, the man behind some of the rawest street anthems ever made. The chemistry was instant, like fire meeting gasoline. In 2006, Max B dropped his debut mixtape, $1 Million Baby, and Harlem went wild. His voice had that wavy magic, his charisma pulled you in, and his street truth hit harder than anything out at the time. Max wasn't just rapping, he was living every single bar. Bird Gang wasn't short on talent. Alongside Max B, there was another rising name shaking the scene, Stack Bundles. With both of them in Jim Jones's corner, he was sitting on a gold mine.
It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 227.
Max quickly became the hidden weapon behind those chart-shaking hits, laying down hooks and verses that made Jim's records sound unstoppable. Songs like Baby Girl became street classics, and every time Max touched the mic, the track just hit different. His wave brought a whole new flavor that Harlem couldn't get enough of. But no matter how high the music took him, the streets had a way of pulling Max back in. By September 2006, things took a turn that would change his life forever. Word started spreading through his ex, Gina Conway, about a flashy guy named Alan J. Plowden, a man living fast off a mortgage and mail scam, always showing off stacks of cash and cruising in luxury cars. Gina told Max everything, and allegedly, that story sparked something dangerous.
Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. Yeah. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made the credit. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
Greed, envy, or just plain hustle instinct. According to Gina, Max supposedly told her straight up they could make a move and everyone would get their cut. That's when things started to spiral. What actually happened next depends on who you ask, but the outcome was undeniable. Max wasn't there when it all went down, but prosecutors painted him as the mastermind behind the setup. Gina Conway, who was mixed up in her own scene, dancing and hustling on the side, testified that Max sent her and his stepbrother, Kelvin Leardam Sims, to hit Plowden's spot at a Holiday Inn in New Jersey. The idea was simple. Wait till he left to party, then slide in and grab whatever they could find. But from the start, the plan was shaky, the timing was off, and the whole operation fell apart faster than anyone expected. Gina and Sims reportedly drove around for hours, missing exits and wasting precious time. The plan was falling apart before it even started. By the time they finally made it to the hotel, Plowden was already back, fast asleep next to another woman. But then things got completely out of control when David Taylor walked in. Someone who wasn't even supposed to be there.
I banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram his up, ram it up in. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Panic hit hard, and in that split-second chaos, everything changed forever. What was supposed to be a quick score turned into something way darker, and from that point on, there was no turning back. Once the authorities caught up, Gina Conway became the first domino to fall. Facing serious time, she broke down and told it all. She gave investigators a massive 169-page statement laying out every detail and putting Max's name right at the center. She claimed Max was the one who set everything in motion, saying he promised her money, loyalty, forever if she went through with it. When the feds came knocking for Max, they didn't play around. They came heavy. He was arrested and hit with serious charges that could change his life forever. His bail was set at an unbelievable $2 million. And just like that, Max B found himself trapped in a cold jail cell watching his entire world freeze around him. But outside those walls, life kept moving, especially for Jim Jones, the same man who had once signed Max and called him family.
Right around that time, Max B gets found guilty on 9 of 11 counts, including felony murder. And he gets sentenced to, was it 75 years?
Yeah, 75.
Suddenly, Jim was everywhere, dropping hits, doing interviews, living large. Then came We Fly High, Ballin', the track that turned into an instant anthem. It was the biggest song of Jim's career, but Max wasn't having it. He claimed he wrote it, and not just that one, but most of Jim's biggest hits too. The tension between them started boiling, and the streets could feel the energy shift. While Jim Jones was out cashing checks, giving interviews, and living like a star, Max B was stuck behind bars, fighting for his life, his name, and his place in the game. 10 long months passed before his bail finally got dropped down to $90,000, and that's when Jim stepped in. But not the way a real friend would. Instead of helping out of loyalty, reports say Jim used that bail as leverage, turning brotherhood into business. Word is, Jim told Max he'd only help get him out if he signed over his publishing rights and agreed to drop 6 albums under Jim's control. Locked up with no options and the world closing in on him, Max took the deal. In that moment, Jim walked away, owning the rights to the entire wavy sound that Max had built from nothing.
Originally, you were sentenced to 75 years. But then, last July, you said you got reduced to 20 years and then to 12 years.
While Max got a temporary taste of freedom that came with a heavy price. When Max B finally walked out of jail in July 2007, he wasn't the same man who went in. He came home colder, sharper, and with a chip on his shoulder the size of Harlem. He was broke, betrayed, and trapped under a deal that gave away his future to the very man he once called family. Watching from the sidelines while Jim's name got bigger on the streets must have burned deep because everyone still knew the truth. That wavy movement came from Max. His mixtapes, street DVDs, and underground freestyles kept his legend alive. People everywhere were shouting "wavy" like it was a revolution. And the louder it got, the more Max realized that if Jim wasn't going to lift him up, he'd have to do it himself. He wasn't just fighting for music anymore. He was fighting for respect. Max B was done staying silent, and Harlem was about to feel that wave crash back harder than ever. Max B had been completely stripped of his power, financially robbed of everything he'd built. Jim Jones owned all his publishing, every single piece of the wavy legacy. That meant every hook Max ever laid down, every smooth ad-lib, every line that had fans vibing, all of it put money in Jim's pocket. The empire Max helped create was now working against him, and that realization hit hard. But this wasn't just about business anymore. It was personal. The friendship had crumbled, the loyalty was gone, and all that was left was pure resentment. Max's heart turned cold from betrayal, and his mind locked in on one thing: payback. So he broke away from Bird Gang with a new mission. If Jim Jones wasn't going to give him the credit and money he deserved, then Max was going to take it another way. By exposing him to the world, nothing was off limits. It didn't take long before Max found the perfect ally. French Montana. Back then, French wasn't the global superstar we know today. He was a raw Bronx figure, hustling in the underground scene with his Cocaine City DVD series, documenting the real, unfiltered streets. French already had his own bad blood with Jim Jones after rumors spread about a shooting incident where Jim allegedly spoke against him. So when Max and French crossed paths, it wasn't just collaboration, it was war strategy. They joined forces and created a crew called Coke Wave, and what they built became one of the most legendary, untamed movements in mixtape history. Max already knew the industry wasn't gonna hand him anything. He didn't own his publishing, had no label to back him, and no corporate protection. But what he did have was something stronger, a voice the streets trusted, and a sound that couldn't be silenced. And with French by his side, that wave was about to shake the entire rap game. When Max B felt the walls closing in, he did what real hustlers do. He took it straight to the underground. He started flooding the streets with his own music, giving the people raw heat that the industry tried to keep buried. But this wasn't just about dropping tracks. Every release was a verbal grenade, aimed straight at Jim Jones and his whole circle. And Max didn't hold back for a second. The first shot fired came through a mixtape called Public Domain 3, and the cover alone said everything. Max stood in a graveyard surrounded by tombstones engraved with names like Millie, Jim Jones, and Vanilli Joel Santana. It was a clear message. Max was burying his enemies one by one. He even compared them to Milli Vanilli, the fake pop duo known for lip-syncing their way to fame, saying Jim and Jules were trying to ride the same wave he built from the ground up. Max took it a step further in his music, dropping ruthless bars that mocked the whole Bird Gang empire. On tracks like Lip Sing Rapping and I Know Them Dudes Need Me, he threw pure shade, spitting lines like, I was giving them the loot, but them dudes done blew it. The disrespect was bold, calculated, and public, and fans couldn't get enough of it. But Max wasn't done stirring the pot. He started targeting not just careers, but reputations, exposing personal stories that hit close to home. The wildest moment of the feud came when Max dropped a track so reckless that the streets couldn't stop talking about it. She touched it in Miami. In that record, Max made jaw-dropping claims about Chrissy Lampkin, Jim Jones' longtime girlfriend, saying she had been with him in private situations. Max rapped it with that trademark laugh, turning the whole thing into a twisted mix of comedy and chaos. The streets went crazy over it. Clips spread everywhere. Fans quoted his bars nonstop, and Jim's name started getting dragged in every hood conversation. What started as a label dispute had now turned into one of the most explosive rap beefs Harlem had ever seen, and Max B was enjoying every second of it. Jim Jones was completely blindsided. He never saw this storm coming. When Max B flipped the script and started calling him out, Jim tried everything to control the damage. He denied the rumors, brushed off the talk, and tried to play it cool, saying Max was just another washed-up artist who never made it past the mixtape stage. Jim even claimed Max didn't write We Fly High, his biggest anthem, trying to erase the man who helped create his sound. But the streets weren't buying that story for a second. The reference tracks floating around had Max's voice all over them, and people started connecting the dots. Suddenly, the whispers turned into real questions. How much of Dipset's success actually came from the man behind the wave? Max wasn't just talking anymore, he was moving like a man on a mission. According to Max, things got even more real one day when Jim supposedly tried to pull up on him in a parking lot, attempting to trap his car in. But Max said he spotted it before it went down. He wasn't going out like that. He allegedly rammed Jim's Bentley out of the way and even got a few hits in before speeding off. It sounded wild, but Max made sure everyone knew about it, even showing off the dents in his car like they were trophies. French Montana and others backed up his story, and the legend just kept growing. The tension between them was past music now. It was straight street energy. Then came November 2008, when Max and French decided to confront Jim face to face. They pulled up deep in Manhattan, walked right into the building where Jim was recording, and let it be known that things were no longer sweet. Max later claimed Jim panicked and called the cops when he realized what was happening. A move that had the whole city talking. For the streets, that moment sealed the deal. The feud between Max B and Jim Jones had officially turned into something way bigger than rap. Around that time, things went completely off the rails. Both crews collided at a Brooklyn club and it turned into pure chaos. Chairs were flying, people were swinging, and even K9 units had to storm in to break it up. It felt like a full-blown movie scene, but this was real life. That's how deep the tension between Max B and Jim Jones had gotten. By the time everything calmed down, Max had done more than just diss Jim. He turned him into a punchline across the streets. While Jim was dealing with the backlash, Max's legend was only growing stronger. He became a cult icon, a street hero who didn't need industry backing to prove his worth. Even with all the contracts and legal traps holding him down, Max still found a way to win, releasing mixtape after mixtape that people still blast to this day. His voice echoed through every corner of Harlem, every car stereo, every block party. Max B was unstoppable, even when the odds were stacked against him. But while his music was lighting up the city, another storm was brewing. One that could silence the wave for good. Behind all the street fame, Max was getting ready for the biggest battle of his life, the criminal trial that could decide his future forever. On June 9th, 2009, Max B walked into the Bergen County Courthouse with his head high and his trademark wavy strut, cameras flashing all around him. His people were there showing love, and his confidence was unshaken. He truly believed in his own story. His legal team sounded just as confident, claiming they had ripped apart the prosecution's main witness on the stand. That witness was none other than Gina Conway, the same woman at the center of everything. Gina had already turned herself in and taken the stand against Max and his stepbrother Kelvin Leardam Sims, cutting a deal for a lighter sentence. The whole world was watching, and Max knew this trial wasn't just about his freedom, it was about his legacy. Max's lawyer tried to flip the script, accusing Gina Conway of being a bitter ex, making up stories just to save herself. He said she twisted the truth for a lighter sentence, that this was never about justice. It was about survival. But courtrooms aren't built on street rules, and no amount of swagger can sway a jury when the evidence is stacked high. When the verdict finally came in, it shattered everything Max believed in. Loyalty, street code, and redemption all went out the window that day. The jury found Max B guilty on 9 out of 11 counts, including armed robbery, conspiracy, aggravated assault, and felony murder. The prosecution painted him as the mastermind, saying even though he wasn't there in person, he was the one who set the whole plan in motion. They claim Max was the brains behind the operation, the one who convinced Gina and Kelvin Leardam Sims to make the move while he stayed back waiting for the payday. From start to finish, the entire case revolved around Gina Conway. She had already made a deal with prosecutors. Her murder charge dropped down to armed robbery and manslaughter in exchange for her testimony. Instead of facing life, she walked away with a recommended 18-year sentence, and that deal changed everything. Max's defense team fought hard, saying Gina had spun lies to save herself, twisting details and adding drama just to cut her time down. The irony? Even Gina herself admitted at one point that Max didn't know about the robbery, saying she only used his name to convince her boyfriend Kelvin to go through with it. The defense argued that she turned on Max later out of heartbreak and self-interest, painting him as the boss just to secure her own deal. But the jury wasn't convinced. After all the drama, testimony, and back and forth, they saw Max as the one pulling the strings. On September 3rd, 2009, the judge handed down the verdict, 75 years in prison. Just like that, one of Harlem's brightest voices was silenced, and the streets that once screamed "wavy" went quiet for the man who gave them the sound. Eligible for parole in 2042, Max B went from Harlem's buzzing street legend to an inmate overnight. Just like that, one day, his name was echoing through every block, and the next, it was echoing through prison walls. The streets felt the loss heavy, but while fans were mourning, Jim Jones seemed to be smiling behind the scenes. From a business point of view, it looked like Jim had pulled off the ultimate checkmate. Max was locked up, his voice silenced, and Jim still owned the publishing rights to everything Max had ever created. Every hook, every melody, every ad-lib, all the money still flowed into Jim's pockets while Max sat behind bars. And Jim didn't stop there. He used every chance he got to mock Max in public, calling him goofy names, brushing him off in interviews, and constantly repeating that Max was washed before he ever blew up. He made it sound like Max was just old stock, something he once used but would never take off the shelf again. But what Jim didn't realize was that the wave doesn't die that easy, especially not Max's. Even from a cell, Max B was still moving. The streets loved him too much to let him fade. He kept his name alive through letters, calls, and connections, staying in touch with French Montana, underground DJs, and indie labels who believed in his sound. Every tape, every leak, every mention kept his legend growing while he was gone. Then in May 2010, everything flipped. A huge legal win came through. The court officially ruled that Jim Jones no longer had control over Max B's music career. The judge found that Max had fulfilled every term of the contracts he signed back in 2005 and 2007. That meant, in simple terms, Max was free. Not physically yet, but artistically. Those paper chains that tied his art to another man's pockets were finally broken. Even from prison, Max B had reclaimed what was his. And soon after, he dropped his long-awaited album, Vigilante Season, in 2011. A statement to the world that the wave could never be stopped. Anyone still doubting his influence had to face the truth. Even locked away, Max B's voice still ran the streets. The streets never let Max B's sound fade. His wavy flow and melodic gangster style became the cheat code for an entire new generation of rappers. You couldn't turn on the radio or scroll through mixtapes without hearing a piece of Max in someone's delivery. The harmonies, the laid-back swagger, the talk of waves, vibes, and freedom. His influence ran so deep that even artists who never met him were unknowingly borrowing from his blueprint. Max's wave had become immortal. And then came the twist no one saw coming. In 2016, after serving 7 years behind bars, Max's new legal team dropped a bombshell that shook everything. They filed a post-conviction relief motion, arguing that Max's original attorney had completely failed him. Instead of fighting for his freedom, the lawyer had allegedly been focused on chasing a big payday, hoping to ride Max's rap career to success if he managed to beat the case. The argument was bold, but it worked. The judge actually vacated Max B's original 75-year sentence, giving him a real shot at redemption. It was a massive victory, one that proved the wave was still alive even from behind bars. As part of a new plea deal, Max pled guilty to aggravated manslaughter, which instantly slashed 55 years off his time. His sentence dropped from 75 years to 20 years and later got reduced again to 12 years. By then, Max had already served a big chunk of that time, meaning for the first time in over a decade, freedom was finally on the horizon. He wasn't going to fade away behind those walls after all. The official release date was set for November 9th, 2025, a moment fans had been praying for, a day that symbolized the return of the wavy one himself. By the time 2025 rolled around, Max B wasn't just a rapper, he was a legend, a myth, a movement. His influence could be heard everywhere. From gritty underground freestyles to Kanye West's chart-topping albums, Kanye even tried to name his 2016 project Waves, until the wave community came at him hard, forcing him to give Max his flowers in public. Kanye later featured Max's voice on a track, a full circle moment for the man who defined the sound everyone was chasing. Artists like Drake and Wiz Khalifa openly credited Max as inspiration for their own styles, admitting that his melodic street flow changed the game forever. Even Jim Jones, in a rare moment of honesty, once said that Max B could have been bigger than Drake if prison hadn't cut his rise short. That's how heavy his impact was. Even his old rival couldn't deny it. Now, as 2025 looms and freedom finally sits within reach, one big question hangs in the air. Are Max B and Jim Jones still enemies, or has time finally cooled it all down? From behind bars, Max's tone shifted. He spoke about growth, peace, and family. He said he's a new man now, a husband and father of 4, no longer driven by rage but by perspective. He even hinted that he might be ready to bury the hatchet once and for all. Jim Jones, though, doesn't seem as eager to turn that page. While he and French Montana rekindled their friendship and even dropped music together in 2023, Jim made it clear that the situation with Max is still complicated. He said he doesn't wish Max harm, but he's not exactly looking to get friendly either. Whatever happens next, one thing's certain, Max B's wave never died. His story is one of betrayal, redemption, and pure resilience. And if you're still here watching, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who knows the real meaning of staying wavy. See you in the next one.